So my daily project is about Boston urban Lyft data. Main reason is that I'm just moved here right at the beginning of this course, and I'm new to this environment, so I might as well learn what's in this environment through this project. So yeah, because I moved, and knowing one big thing about this data is that it's actually collected between, oh, it's American data, got to change it, but so 26th of November till the 18th of December. That's kind of tight, but that's data I end up with. And data are only being collected by two apps only, so they're kind of biased, and especially with like, oh, by the user base. So what I get at first is like trying to know bit of the data is that I'm trying to find the busiest time, and my hypothesis is that hey, people might be working at like 8 to 9, and then that might be the busiest time, with quiet nights as well. So the Uber and Lyft wouldn't have that much people, but instead it ends up with second highest place where a lot of people are working at around 9 to 6, but there are a lot more rides that are happening at midnight, around 12. So I'd say that's mostly because of like bars and clubs. You know, people are getting drunk, they get on taxi or even rides, so they get home. No one don't want to drive. But there's also another reason that we mentioning later on. So basically, the takeaway is that avoid midnight and make friends at that time, but after COVID. What's the busiest in Boston? Boston Institute is in some of the states. Where is it? I wouldn't know because I don't even know this place, but this graph doesn't even show me. But at the end, the highest number of this group is actually financial district, where well, financial trades. So everyone's doing financial trades. Not really my type, especially everyone here is doing design. But something that's weird is that the second place is actually it's actually theater district, which this means that where in theater district there are a lot of opera plays and all that. So there are actually a lot of people working behind the stage, behind the scene, in front of the scene, as well as audience that are going to. Then that's why there are a lot of Uber and Lyft rides at late night, especially when the show is ending. Boston Institute, like Boston universities, are weirdly not high, as I suspected some of the students are actually like sharing rides so that they could go home. Like sharing rides could be cheaper, and that's why they are less user. That's just one of the opera show. That's how it looks. Could be cool when you guys want to come. Also, does cold bother the users? Boston is known to be cold with thick snow. Due to limited amount of data, that's what I can mostly find in a really close data set. But at least from what's being shown here, then people are actually avoiding the getting out when they're like -5 degrees. It's being converted to degrees here already, so it's all good. Fahrenheit is not used here, and that they're mostly active in around 5 degrees. But does that mean that because of snow? Maybe it could be, but upon further research, it actually shows that it's not really snowing in December, so it's mostly just rain, as shown later on. So I was disappointed, and my takeaway is that I'm going to be prepared for the cold. So I'm also looking for how people are, where are they going or how far do they actually travel? Do I need a car or something? And what I found is that people are actually traveling within like 5 to 3.5 miles ranges. So that mostly active on a further ranges. So the takeaway is that hey, I need to get car or bike to live here. Finally, does rain actually affect how people use Lyft and ride in this area at least? Surprisingly, it does. As you can see here, the somehow the data of people using Lyft and ride with the circumstances that has a hint of rain, such as light rain or even like drizzle, it is actually tenfold less than what like a typical or even like mostly cloudy days does, which is surprisingly a lot less than I thought of. Which I thought people might be fine with having cabs, but they might use more because these rides are point to point. So I suppose with that much rain, I had to get an umbrella. So I moved in. So ultimate takeaway here, if you were to visit Boston, yeah, catch the get a bike and prepare the code. Prepare for the code. Yeah, and that's it. It's a real code.
Nice. All right, that was great. It was good to see that kind of told as a story with a purpose. So the idea that you would be like, well, I need to find this out because I'm going to go there. So what should I be doing? Some interesting counterintuitive things, like that people use Uber less in the rain. That would be, it seems odd because in the rain in Sydney, the surge prices go right up because people, in Sydney, people are allergic to getting wet. So the second it starts raining, they get in a taxi. So maybe in Boston, they just don't go out or something like that. I'm not sure. It's interesting. I think you did a good job by presenting what the biases in the data might be. You've only got Uber and Lyft. You don't have public transport. You don't have car data, all that sort of stuff. And you kept coming back to the story that you were trying to tell, which was if you're going to go to Boston, you want to understand what Boston's like a little bit. Let me see what else is going on here. You had a few situations where it wasn't clear that the data in the graph matched the title of the graph. So you had things like temperature versus number of rides, and they just looked like temperature graphs rather than temperature versus number of rides. And so, yeah, like that one, relationship between temperature and Uber and Lyft. So distance and frequency, it doesn't look like there's a temperature on that graph. So just be careful that your title match your graph.
Right.
I think you probably, you've got a couple, like the next slide along, or maybe the one after that, that one. You could have plotted that as a horizontal bar graph quite easily, and you could have seen those numbers compared to each other and maybe colored the bars according to whether there was rain involved or not, that kind of thing. Like that wouldn't have been especially difficult. And I think that would be pretty easy to do and would give you quite a lot more insight into what's going on. You'd be like, oh, look, rainy days, because that's kind of your main takeaway, is that, or one of your main takeaways is from that data, and it would be good to show that kind of graphically rather than textually.
Yeah.
But overall, pretty good.